Hi, I'm Em of M Doodles and Stuff. I do influencer baby name predictions on TikTok and baby name consultations, and here on this channel, I'm doing all the other stuff. These videos tend to be the opposite of a deep dive. I have described them as a squirrely scramble. I make a frenzied dash up a random topic, get up to the top branches where it's getting too thin, something's gonna snap. So like a squirrel, I make a frenzied leap to another tree. All of a sudden, I'm here at a completely different topic. I didn't put much thought into how we would get here, but here we are. That's the situation of these videos. There's very little foresight in what I'm about to say. It's really fun. Now, you can put these videos in 1.5 speed, I've been told is a good spot. If my slow talking here freaks you out a little bit, because it is quite different than TikTok. I mean, I gotta go fast in those because I only have 3 minutes to say so much. Now, this is a prediction XL, an extra long baby name prediction. So it is a little more methodical, a little less squirrely, but still a bit squirrely. I have notes here on my laptop. I have my phone here. I have lots to say, lots to think about. Hopefully it will be a little coherent. Now, these predictions are because every once in a blue moon, there's an influencer that I just know the 3 minutes aren't going to cut it. It's not enough. There's so much more I want to say. I've actually only done one other prediction XL on here, and I did get it right. But that's not the goal. That's truly, I'm not banking on that at all this time. It's not about getting it right. It's about the chit chat along the way. You know, as Miley Stewart once said, it's ain't about how fast you get there, ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb, you know? So before I proceed, I want to give a heads up that this video will respectfully cover the topic of infant loss and stillbirth. And if that's particularly sensitive to you, by all means, you are so very welcome to pass on this video. Now, the video today is a prediction for the ponds. Cat Pond is on Instagram with about 40,000 followers. Her husband is Nick, and together their TikTok is @theponds with 2 S's, and that account has almost 230,000 followers. In the scope of influencer numbers, I'd say these are average. You know, there's nothing crazy high about those numbers, but a higher following number than, like, if you are looking at Instagram and your former roommate is really trying to make her wedding content go viral. You know, this isn't a million plus followers. It's not roommate with the wedding content followers. We're right in between. And I really like that spot. I like that we're in the scope of normal and average influencer numbers because the ponds seem like normal people. Most of the time, what draws me to an influencer baby name prediction is the opposite of that. Typically, there needs to be something absolutely wackadoodle. There needs to be a really over-the-top specific aesthetic, really crazy baby names, really problematic personal beliefs they loudly declare. I gobble that stuff up. But not today, not today. A little bit about them more. Kat and Nick, they live in Utah. And again, I'm using the term normal and average in a highly complimentary way because it absolutely freaks me out how many Utah influencers seem identical. Just identical, you know, all that blonde Scandinavian pioneer inbreeding really kept the gene pool tight. You may be wondering, is this going to be another ramble into niche Mormon topics? I've done that before. No, it is not, because the ponds are former Mormons. I'm using that term instead of ex-Mormon because I think in this context, ex just sounds too harsh for the vibes they're putting out. I'm fascinated by their subtle, quiet departure from religion. they still talk about it. They mention it sometimes. Essentially, they've said our lives and values no longer align with the church. They'll mention it every once in a while. It's not the focus of their content, though, and that's intriguing to me because I think we really only see ex-Mormon content on social media when it is ex-Mormon content creators. It's people that's the whole focus of their account, and that's important to them, and sharing stuff is, what they want to do. I like that we have this totally normal couple who just happens to formally been Mormon. We don't hear about that very often. I guess Ryan Gosling counts as that. Yeah, he was a former Mormon himself. Now, when it comes to sharing on social media, the Pons generally come across as relaxed and gentle and calm, when so much of social media feels so loud and bold. Everything on the web is designed to be attention-grabbing, and I really feel like the Pons are just calm, just gentle. I'm here on their Instagram, content to be perusing their account, So now a big part of their story is the stillbirth of their first daughter. I want to be so sensitive and respectful and thoughtful as I approach this. This isn't something I can just briefly mention as part of their story and move on from it, because her name is the whole foundation of this. Her name is the reason I'm here doing this today. Kat and Nick had a stillborn daughter last year at 25 weeks pregnant, and they named her Edelweiss. How do I even express this? I read that announcement from them and gasped. I was so profoundly touched by this name choice in a way I can't say I've ever experienced before. I think even without knowing them or knowing this baby or knowing the reason they chose this name, there is an instant connection to it, because instantly, Edelweiss, I think many of us think Sound of Music. We think of the song. We think of the specific scenes of the song. And it's a flower. We think of the flower. There's so much that rushes into my mind when I hear Edelweiss, and it's all so good and so light and so hopeful and nostalgic. So before I really get more into my impressions on this and how it affects the baby name prediction for their second daughter, it's better that I first share what Kat and Nick themselves have said. They've shared that on their way home from their anatomy scan, where they learned that they'd be having a little girl, the song Edelweiss from The Sound of Music came up on the Spotify playlist. They say instantly it hit us like, oh my gosh, this is her name. And it wasn't on their name list or anything before that. They researched the Edelweiss flower and learned that it signifies deep love, care, attention, sacrifice, and devotion to the people who mean the world to you. That's what they've shared on Instagram. Now, along with that, they had very sentimental ties to watching the film. Kat says it's her favorite movie. However, they did feel hesitant because they didn't actually have any of their own ties to Austria. Hesitant because it's hard to spell. It's hard to say. That Edelweiss being a W in the middle, I still hesitate before I say it sometimes. They didn't love that there was no clear nickname for it either. Things like that. Kat says, we decided it was not practical for the real world. And then they went through that thing that every parent fears the most. They lost their sweet baby who came too early. And Kat says about the name, quote, we felt like it, meaning the name Edelweiss, wasn't a name for real life. And that makes sense now because she didn't get to go to kindergarten or go to school or anything like that. That would require a more simple name. And so it just fit her perfectly, end quote. So It was a name not suited for the real world. And they were able to give it to their daughter who would not be in the real world. The Pons feel like finding that name, it was their intuition to go towards that name. Even though it didn't make sense, everything that happened was almost like a way that their daughter named herself. Everything about this just takes my breath away. They call her Edie as a nickname for Edelweiss. Edelweiss Janine Pond, nickname Edie. I can't say enough. This is all so touching. It's so tragic. To me, it would feel nearly disrespectful to try to cram all of this into a 3-minute TikTok sandwiched in between videos where I'm like making ridiculous jokes. It would just be disrespectful. So that's why we're here today, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, something I mentioned in my previous video prior to this one on this channel is that I've recently turned a corner in my own mental health journey. I've been depressed for so long that I didn't even recognize it as a problem because it's just been so normal for me. About 2 months ago, I finally started medication because I realized every day I was spending so much time just trying not to be sad, depressed, anxious. I was journaling, drawing, meditating every day, which are great things. However, I wasn't doing them as a way to enhance my livelihood. I was doing those things just to stay alive. And something else I did was ask myself, what is the happiest thing I can imagine for myself? I asked myself that because I thought that if I could identify that answer, I could kind of point my life in the direction of that being the ultimate goal. If I could imagine the happiest thing ever, I could look for realistic little snippets, reasonable little things I could do in my day-to-day life that would catch a little whiff of that dream goal. Now, the answer to what is the happiest thing I can imagine for myself came extremely easy for me, and that is to frolic in a meadow of wildflowers on a mountain. Easy. Just thinking about that right now just fills me up. Frolicking in a meadow of wildflowers in the mountains. The best word I could use to describe how that feels to me is a word that isn't typically in my vocab. I'm actually checking, looking in the dictionary just to make sure I'm using it correctly. Oh yes, okay, the word is exuberant. Exuberant means to be filled with or categorized by a lively energy and excitement. Yes, that. Exuberance is truly the exact opposite of depression. For me, depression was no lively energy, no excitement, and looking for ways to capture the essence of frolicking in a meadow of wildflowers in the mountains was something that helped me. It's the happiest thing I can imagine. So over the last few months, going hiking, literally just the act of skipping, dancing, drawing pictures of flowers. All of these things are things I did to take me in that direction, and it helped me feel good temporarily. Never worked for that long. Now I'm on Lexapro, FYI, and having a really positive experience with it. So good. But the point of this is to frolic in a meadow of wildflowers in the mountains is to be Fräulein Maria, is it not? Anytime I say that phrase of that happiest vision for me, am I imagining myself in the opening scene of that movie? 100% yes. The second the words are out of my mouth, that's what's in my brain. She doesn't even have wildflowers in her meadow, so I guess mine is a little bit better. Now for me, as long as I've been alive, I've watched that scene, that opening scene, and felt exuberant. I fill my house now with paintings of mountains and pine trees, and we live in Minnesota, but we take all of our favorite family trips to places in the Rocky Mountains, it seems like. This summer, I've cried multiple times watching the sunrise over all of the wildflowers that bloom in late summer here in the area that our new house is. Here, let's put in a picture. Sometimes this video is gonna have visual aids. I'll let you know when it's coming because you don't need your eyes on the screen the whole time. So boop, here's a picture. Look at these wildflowers. This makes me cry because it makes me so happy to be alive. So for me, hearing Edelweiss is feeling all of those same feelings. And then adding in the tenderness of Captain Von Trapp and Liesel's duet, singing Edelweiss. Hot take, maybe. I don't really care about the rendition sung at the end up on stage, with the whole family. It's lovely. It's really nice. But the duet where Liesel comes in is everything to me. Probably because Liesel is everything to me. Oh. Okay, can you guys solve this for me? There is a certain type of beauty that I think is the most radiant, perfect beauty, the most beautiful. There's so many different beautiful people in the world, so many different types of beautiful. I think I have a favorite. Here, let's put some visuals up. It's Liesel from The Sound of Music, and it's also Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and also Marta from Knives Out. Okay, pause. These are really good names. Unpause. So look at these ladies together. Is it just that they have brown hair and blue eyes? Are there character qualities uniting these women? Are there others you would classify with this group? I think these are the most beautiful women ever. Oh, with really good names. Wow. Okay, so holy smokes. We haven't even touched on the baby name prediction yet. Wow. Okay. In a nutshell, the name Edelweiss enchants me in a way that nothing else ever has. I think some of the key elements I want to keep in mind here are that it's a flower, but it's also something else. I'm going to say that over and over again through this video. And something else. It's a word with so many different associations. It's a flower and a movie and a song and just so many powerful feelings and vibes. Does that make sense? It has a very powerful sentimental and nostalgic association for the ponds. As a concept, it feels not just clean and bright, but also everything about Edelweiss feels calm and peaceful and tranquil. Maybe because its color is so much associated with white. Great feelings. I mean, calm, peaceful, tranquil. These are the words I would use to describe the vibes of the ponds themselves on social media. So these are all things I'm logging away in my brain. I'd also say a significant part of this is that it's familial. Is that the right word to use? Family oriented? Because when I think of the scenes in The Sound of Music, it's such a special, sweet turning point for the bond between father and children. Doesn't it seem, what percentage of music do you think is love songs, romantic love? Edelweiss is not romantic love, it's familial love. In the latter version of this song that I like less, but it's still good, it's about connecting this family all together as they're about to embark on the greatest journey of their life. What an amazing feeling. There's so many amazing feelings in this song and in this word of Edelweiss. Oh, and lastly, Edelweiss as a name clearly has the vibes of the Alps. Okay, I wanted to say the vibe is Scandinavian or Nordic, but geographically that is wrong. I don't know what word to use. What do you say when you're talking about the folksy charm of a mountainy pine tree place in Europe that's not Nordic? I'm just going to say Alps adjacent. Tell me if you think of something better though. that's kind of the list I've created in my mind of the qualities of Edelweiss as a name. It's a flower, white, and something else, sentimental, nostalgic, calm, peaceful, tranquil, familial, Alps adjacent vibes. Now, after building this list, we must briefly disregard it. Kat has answered the question, will we incorporate Edie's name at all? For example, using her name as the middle name. And she says, no, it's really important for us that this baby to know she was wanted outside of losing Edie. She will know about her sister in heaven, but I really don't want her to have the pressure of living in Edie's shadow or feel like she's filling a void in our life. This baby will be her own little person and will have her own separate name. So at this point, at one point they said they will not be going with another name that starts with E. I think all of this makes sense. This is a really thoughtful, level-headed answer for this situation for their family, especially when you consider that the Pons specifically explained that Edelweiss as a name didn't feel plausible for the real world for a child who's going to be on an attendance list for kindergarten. This definitely changes the way we're going to think about baby number 2. This second baby girl is going to have a name that is more mainstream, a name we've heard before. I can guarantee that. Now, I want to note that their due date is Friday the 13th. In October, they say Nick is super into Halloween. I don't think this will influence the baby name, but wow, I would love if it did. Feminine yet spooky names is such a good sphere. I've had a few clients with October babies where we kind of bring that in, and it's so fun. Okay, next, I gotta share with you all the clues that the Pons have given us. Okay, this is where it gets dicey. There's a lot of conflicting information, and probably by the time I post this, there's gonna be something else out there they've shared. At times, they have been absolutely confident they have a name. And then a month later, they say they're back at square one. I've been keeping notes on this for months and have no idea what clues are still relevant. Maybe none of them. But let's go over what we know. What have they shared? At one point much earlier in their pregnancy, they said they have 2 top names they really like. And they shared a screenshot of a list of names in no particular order, where the list included the top 2 names as well as backups. The names were blurred out except for the first letter. I am simply a moth who is drawn to the flame. I am like a young nun drawn to a mountaintop. I must go here. Here are the letters they shared. R-I-S-S-P-R-L-V. So you had some duplicate letters in there, which means, there's more than one name that starts with S and R that they love. Again, we have no idea if this is still true at all. Now, since then, they have shared lists of names they like but won't be using. Again, I am a moth to flame. I am a nun to a hill. I love these lists more than anything. I have them in my notes, but I cannot find any record of this first list I have written down. I know I didn't pull it out of nowhere, but I can't find it on their TikTok anymore. They have a baby name playlist on TikTok. It doesn't seem to be in there, but I had, it came from somewhere. So, okay, this is their first list of names they said they love but will not be using. There was Margot, Eleanor, or Nora, Daisy, Liesel, Juliet, and Alice. And right from there, I'm like, yep, got it. And then sometime later, they shared this list, which I was able to find again, so this one is solid. They shared love but not using Goldie, specifically saying it feels too young. They can't imagine someone named Goldie after the age of 4. They said Maeve, Mabel, Lucy, that one they said really no reason not to use it, just not the one. Birdie, Daisy, Catch that? Daisy is the only one that was on both lists. Florence with the nickname Flo, and Eloise. Eloise, they mentioned like they just felt like it fit the family aesthetic. What's the little book about Eloise? Like they like the travel vibe of it. Felt like it fit them. So, okay, these two lists give me big vibes, huge vibes. But put a pin in it for a second because there's a few other clues to go through first. On May 22nd, there was a TikTok where they said they were feeling pretty set with a name. And a hint was, Kat said, if you know my dream job. She was like, you guys that are my friends that know me, like if you know my dream job, you'll know the name. Something to that effect. June 4th, Kat says, hey, the name is not Sunny, just FYI. Noted. June 20th, they say they love normal names with fun nickname options, particularly because Kat, which I assume is short for Catherine, was not allowed to have nicknames growing up. That is so sad. And then one day later, another baby name TikTok is posted where Kat and Nick have written their top 3 names on a piece of paper. They say that if any of their names line up, that's going to be their new top choice for baby girl, which really sounds like they're kind of back to square one with choosing a name, or maybe they're just making this TikTok for fun. I thought it was fun. None of their names lined up. Not a good sign. But as they're looking at each other's paper, they occasionally make little remarks that feel like possibly tiny clues about what's written there, and I gobble these up. I didn't write down who said what, but one of them says, that name is from that book your mom gave us. Oh, so it's literary. Okay. One of them says, from a movie. Old-fashioned. He says to her, that's a U, right? So something on her list has the letter U in the name. What is that? I have a really good guess. I don't know why I'm super confident, but I am super confident I know what that name is. Good name with a cool nickname, one of them says. These are all from movies I know. Also a boy's name? Interesting. These are interesting remarks from these little slips of paper that we can't see. I am fascinated, but ultimately have to assume based on the context that none of these names are going to be the name because that was what the whole video was about. Okay, so put a pin in that as we unstick the pin we put in the 2 names we love but won't be using lists. Here are those 2 lists, okay? These are feminine. These are vintage comeback names. They are more or less on trend for today. That's a fine way to describe them. Those are good words, feminine, vintage comebacks, yeah. But my brain has so much more to say. I have a term that I have come up with over the years of doing baby name consultations. And the term for these names, ready? You're about to hear this so many times as you watch this. The term is garden girls in white dresses. Garden girls in white dresses. That's what these names are. My sister said to just call it girls in white dresses aesthetic because garden girls sounds too much like Gilmore Girls or Golden Girls, which are like totally different aesthetics. But I do think the garden element is very important. These names are girls who would spend time in gardens, and they are girls in white dresses. Yes, like with blue satin sashes. They're not mandatory, but I do think the blue sashes is a nice touch. Garden girls in white dresses carry parasols as they stroll through gardens. And these can be formal gardens with fountains and statues of cherubs like spitting water. Or it can be more wildflower meadow type of garden, a little more natural. Garden girls in white dresses wear petticoats. Their curled hair is half up. They have like a ribbon in the back. Not the big poofy triangle bow, the like really stiff bow. It's a ribbon bow, like silky, so the ends kind of float out in the wind as they walk, as they pass the peonies. But then part of the vibe is that like the hem of their dress is muddy. They've been given white lace gloves, but they're not going to wear them. Of course they're going far, a long, long way to run. Of course they're climbing a tree to avoid some patriarchal society. They don't want to spend their time learning to sew, a needle pulling a thread. They want to read their books. Garden girls in white dresses are delicate and feminine, yet also clever and bookish. I cringe as I realize, thank you to my sister again, that as I say that, it's Belle from Beauty and the Beast. She is the 1991 prototype here, but I don't want to make this too Disney focused. I've got plenty of other character examples that we'll get into soon. Garden Girls in White Dresses is light academia meets cottagecore. Light academia meets cottagecore. I love saying that type of sentence because you either totally get it or think that was a foreign language. I live to serve useless information, so let's do a little brief lesson. It starts with dark academia. Do you know what that is? Dark academia, here's a picture. This is one of the top images that Pinterest will serve you when you look up the term dark academia. This man has his back turned to us in a library, probably reading some Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo, both of those names are very dark academia, by the way. It's moody, it's gothic, it's giving historical private school education in England. It's giving Harry Potter Draco fan fiction. Now, the opposite of dark academia is this. It's light academia. This is one of the Pinterest images that you'll get right away. This is for the girls. You know, she has the triangle bow. She has a white flouncy dress. Everything here is white and light and creamy and still also has that historical academic element that we saw before. Okay, she has a set of marble busts on her fancy old side table and then another set of them on top of a stack of books, but the ones down on the books are actually candles that are lit. The top book in her stack here underneath the candles is Leonardo da Vinci, and I'm worried that the candle wax dripping onto that valuable literature is going to be a problem in a minute here. Question, I love the idea of tall, skinny candles. I've never had one. I see the little wooden candle holders for the tall, skinny candles. I love the look of it, but I've never done it because I don't understand what do you do with the mess of wax once it melts. I have a habit of leaving my candles to melt for lengthy amounts of time in the evening. Where does the wax go? Do you have to clean off your cute little wooden holder all the time? Should I just stick with the jars from Bath and Body Works candles? I don't understand. Okay, so this light academia girl is also doing a really nice job on her painting, but it is worth noting she might be scamming us because she is absolutely not at all painting this scene that is in front of her. Look at that. Her old-timey wooden easel is holding a canvas that has been painted with a totally different set of statues. It's not the ones in front of her. It's almost as if this whole scene was set up to take this picture for social media. Shocking. Now, lastly, what is cottagecore? Here is a cottagecore picture. Now she has the little ribbon bow in her half up curly hair. Yes, yes, yes. She's picking apples. The clothes are more like olive and beige colored, probably linen. They feel like a little more early, humble New Englander. She has a wicker basket full of apples and black shiny loafers with white frilly socks. I love the idea of wearing this type of outfit myself. I genuinely want to be a person that wears this, but something I realized just in this past year, listen up, this is good advice, is that if I see an outfit and think, I'd look really good in that. I would love to wear that as long as I did my hair and makeup. I should not buy it if I say that. If there's something that I can only feel good wearing if I look put together, I'm not going to actually wear it as often as I think I'm going to. Like this outfit she's got on could look really cute, really aesthetic and intentional with the right styling like she's done. But most of the time, I am not that. I am this. If I wore this outfit in my day-to-day life, I'd look like I escaped a fundamentalist church. I'd be scrolling my phone at Costco and someone would probably say, "Oh, I didn't know you type were allowed to use phones." You know? So our cottagecore girly doesn't have a book in this picture, but she's definitely sneaking a copy of Little House on the Prairie in her pocket that we can't see. I feel super confident about that. So the intersection of these two aesthetics, light academia and cottagecore, is where Garden Girls in White Dresses is born. I think that's a fair assumption. I'm open to other names to describe this, but for now I'm sticking with the GGWD. This aesthetic intersection is exactly what I imagine when I hear the Pond's lists of baby names they love but won't be using. I don't stop there though, because my brain immediately has a visual, like a strong, powerful, specific visual. So I take that visual from my brain and turn it into an actual visual in Photoshop for you to experience. This is what I do with my free time. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for it? Okay, so brew all these names together. Let me say them all. Here we go. They're going in the pot. We're making a recipe. There was Margot, Eleanor, Daisy, Liesl, Juliet, Alice, Goldie, Maeve, Mabel, Lucy, Daisy, Bertie, Florence, Eloise. Put it all together, and what does it become? This visual. Yes. I put this together. Should I make this my background? It's gorgeous. So as you can clearly see here, I do consider The Sound of Music to be the foundation of the Garden Girls in White Dresses aesthetic. So naturally, with that being a theme for the Ponds, we've got the opening scene as our center point of this visual. There are Edelweiss flowers scattered throughout the collage. And I did even add white poofy little flowers to Maria's meadow because I really feel like that was the only thing that the movie was missing. She needed some wildflowers up there. So let's take a little tour of this visual. Let's start with top left. Top left, we're starting out strong with the most beautiful of all beautiful, gentle femininity, Liesl. Yes, this name was on the Ponds list. I would assume they're not using it because the Sound of Music connection would be a wee bit strong if they had a Liesl and an Edelweiss. Because for many people, Liesl von Trapp is the only Liesl we're familiar with. You know, that's really different than Maria. Maria, you can think of Maria von Trapp, but chances are you've encountered another Maria. Now, wow, Liesl is truly our icon here. Girls in white dresses can actually wear dresses of any color. I believe hers is pale lavender. It's just so lovely. Of course, there's petticoats. Of course, her curled hair is half up. A gazebo is the architectural equivalent of a garden. We just don't need him. He is about to make some bad decisions. Now, step to the right, and we've got an overall color palette here. I described the vibe of Edelweiss and the Ponds as calm and peaceful and tranquil, and that's how this color palette feels too. Next, a stack of old-timey books, and that's here for a few reasons. One, this girly vibe is one who reads, whether it's in a garden or a tree or a library. And so many of the pawns' names are literary, the ones they've listed and the ones that we didn't see on that slip of paper. That name is in the book your mom gave us. It meant something. So on this stack of books, I've plugged in Margot, Eleanor, Eloise, Lucy, Goldie, lovely old novels all over the place with all of these names and more. Currently, I'm unable to hear the name Eloise without thinking of Bridgerton, partially because that Bridgerton vibe is in the sphere of this vibe. I didn't read the book, but I know from the screen adaptation, Eloise is the most bookish of all characters. Plus, yes, definitely white dresses, the whole deal, for sure. I love connecting Goldie to Goldilocks. In this context, I'm definitely seeing Lucy as Lucy from the Narnia series. Like when they're in the old professor's house, that's very dark academia. It's very, dark old library, scholarly with marble busts and corners. When they are kings and queens of Narnia, that is light academia, I would say. Okay, moving on. Lovely little framed illustrations of the two most floral names of the bunch. There's Daisy, the name that was mentioned twice, and Edelweiss, the name of their daughter. These are getting their framed moments in the spotlight because these are so important. Floral names is going to be a repeating theme, a repeating question through this whole brainstorm because floral names absolutely fit the vibe better than anything else. To be a garden girl in a white dress doesn't mean you have to have a floral name, but there's absolutely bonus points when you do. However, look what's behind the background, behind the frames here. That's a Monet, I think. It's a pond. This family has the last name Pond. Pond is a nature term. Pairing a nature first name with a nature last name can sound very lovely or too much. The best possible example is absolutely what you're seeing right up in there in that Monet. What is that? It's a lily pad. Those are lily pads. Lily pads, lily pond, lily pad pond. I think that's too on the nose. Lily pond. Beautiful, but very on the nose. That's going to be a recurring question here. Okay, bottom right corner. I've kind of grouped together Maeve, Mabel, Florence with these pictures that just really embody the crossover of light academia, art gal with the white dress garden girl. These are lovely. Thank you, Pinterest, for all of these pictures. Okay, left again. Another frame. Alice. Alice in Wonderland. She has petticoats. She has bounteous gardens. She wants to climb a tree and take a nap with a cat. She has a bow. She is 100% delicate and feminine, yet bookish and clever. Again, I don't want to go to Disney, so instead this illustration is from the novel instead of the cartoon movie. Now, bottom left corner acknowledges the name on their list, which was Juliet, as well as Birdie, for this lovely little white bird I've added above her wing. Romeo and Juliet is a romance gone wrong. So was Liesl and Rolf's, but for really different reasons. Juliet, played by Claire Danes, wow. Wow, 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 wow. What words could I possibly use to express what I mean here? There aren't words. That's why I made the picture. My goodness. So do you see where I'm at? Do you see with what I'm working with here? Do you see what my brain sees? Now, if I'm remembering correctly, we also put a pin in acknowledging a few other pieces of media that embody the garden girls in white dresses aesthetic. Is that right? You guys, there's so much up in here right now. Let's do that. I think it's fun to go over a few other movies and books that have this vibe. And while I'm looking at their Wikipedia or IMDb pages, I'm going to do a quick scan for any other names that fit. However, that's going to be a lot of names. That's going to be so many names. So I'm going to try to focus on GGWD names that start with one of the first letters that the pawns gave in that original clue, that list of blurred out names. Like I said, that hint could mean nothing. It could be pointless to focus on R, I, S, L, whatever the other ones were. But honing in on some first letters is something we need to do so that this video isn't 48 hours long. You get it? So, Sound of Music, duh, cornerstone. I think I've drilled that into your heads already. The only other name to consider, I would say Louisa. Louisa, because, oh, sorry, what were the letters we were talking about again? What was it? It was RISSPRLV. Okay, got it. Louisa, definitely. I still wonder if that feels too on the nose connected in the same way Liesel would. However, there are more Louisas in the world than Lisas. Not Lisas, Liesels. So yeah, sure, let's consider it. Another cornerstone, perhaps almost equally as significant as the Sound of Music when it comes to this discussion, it's so important for the Garden Girls in White Dresses aesthetic. It is Tuck Everlasting. Tuck Everlasting. I haven't watched this movie in at least 15 years. I've only seen it twice. It's too sad. I honestly don't need to watch it though, because all I need to do to get my fix is to go to google.com/images and find this picture. I don't even want to say anything. There's no words. She is perfect. She is everything. This vibe. Now, the name. Winnie. Are you kidding? That's also perfect. No, I've already broken my rule. I said I would only stick with the clue letters that they gave, but Winnie? We have to consider Winnie. Okay, the Garden Girl white dress vibe is also present in Anne of Green Gables. I think that leans a little more cottagecore at times, except that there are a lot of actual white dresses. Names in there that also fit: Ruby and Philippa. And that remark that the pawns made on their TikTok of, oh, is that a you? With every hunch in my body, I believe they were talking about Ruby. Absolutely. Okay. Next is Alice in Wonderland. We covered Alice, but it's also worth mentioning for names. There are a lot of specific types of flowers in the story of Alice in Wonderland. Rose, iris, daisy listed, violet, lily, you get the idea. Pride and Prejudice for sure has some of that vibe, yes. Lydia is not a good role model, but it is a very good name for our consideration. And Pride and Prejudice also has a Louisa character. I don't know who that is, but I see her name here, so noted. Jump over to Little Women. Lots of good vibes, lots of good names here. There's an Alice, there's Daisy on their list, Florence on their list, Lori's a boy, but it's lovely. Oh, and who's the author? Louisa. Interesting. I wrote down Cinderella 2015, the Lily James version. Delicate and feminine, yet bookish and clever, and just the most dazzling romantic imagery of all time. Next, obviously Bridgerton. It is absolutely loaded with the gardens and the white dresses and the names. This is an example of really needing to stick with the letters that only the pawns mentioned, because I would actually end up just reading this entire character list if I had no limit. So just within those letters, there's Philippa, there's Eloise listed, Lucy listed, Penelope, Sophie, Violet, Victoria, Vivian, Alice listed, Rose, Sophia, Posy, Phoebe. A huge round of applause for the names of Bridgerton. A+. I wrote down the 1960 film version of the novel Pollyanna. It does cover some of the vibes. I think it's right in that sweet spot of time era that I think Garden Girls in White Dresses most thrives in. That's like loosely, like the late 1800s. I really think of like 1910 for some reason. Those white dresses really give 1910. So Pollyanna fits in there. This is the first movie I ever fell asleep watching. I don't think Pollyanna as a name is gonna cut it. So, okay, moving on. Titanic. You don't need a literal garden to be a garden girl in a white dress. That vibe is still completely valid if you're steaming up the windows of a car in the bottom of a ship. Absolutely. Especially when your name is Rose. Yeah, she belongs. She's fancy, but she doesn't want to be. There's also Ruth. And looking at IMDb, I'm seeing a 5th Officer Lowe and Quartermaster Rowe. Don't know if that's historically true, but I like saying those. 5th Officer Lowe, Quartermaster Rowe. Now, something I often do for name research is to hone in on a specific historical resource from the right time era or place that I'm trying to think about. I find this to be much more interesting and effective than simply Googling most popular vintage names or something like that. In an actual historic record, you're going to get a feel of the most popular ones just by noticing which names you see multiple times in the same list. You're also going to find totally random obscure names and sometimes stumble into things you never would have found. I've done this with lists for clients or TikToks where I've used the list of disappeared settlers from Roanoke Island. I've used the list of passengers from the Mayflower. I've used a Wikipedia link of all Danish women executed for witchcraft. You may say, wow, you really gravitate to some major bummers. That is true today because a fantastic resource right here, right now, is the official passenger list from the Titanic. I mean, I'll spare you my entire read and just hit you with the ones that felt relevant to this brainstorm with the correct clue first letter. Virginia, Florence listed, Alice listed, Ruth, Vera, Lucy listed, Louisa listed, Mabel also listed, Lila, Rosalie, Ida, Juliet listed, Lillian, Sylvia, Nora on their list, Simone, Phoebe, Stella. I mean, as respectfully as possible, I give a huge round of applause for the names of the Titanic. It's such a great one because it's one time era, but people from kind of a little bit of all over Europe. That's really good. Okay, now sometimes there's a piece of media where only a single scene or single character embodies the vibe of a garden girl in a white dress. An example here is Dirty Dancing. That is totally different. That is like so hot and sexy. I'm just talking about this scene where he does the lift in the lake and maybe like the dress she wears in the final dance sequence. But on the topic of names, there is a character named Vivian. We've heard that a few times now. That really fits. Here's another example. Lord of the Rings, Rosie Cotton only. I love Rosie Cotton. You have no idea how many times I reference Rosie Cotton in my life and in my work. Her bouncy curls, her smile, everything about her, her vibe honestly is exuberance. There's no other way to put that, and I love that. Now, I'm on this website here that's giving me a list of her kids' names, and I don't know if that's canon. Like, did J.R.R. say this? I'll read them anyways. Samwise and Rosie Cotton had a bunch of kids. First one is Frodo Gardner. Pause already. When Cat Pond said that, like, you might know the baby name if you know my dream career, my immediate thought was Gardner, like a gardener, or if that, like, career and that vibe works, florist. So, like, the name could be Flora Gardner. I think the vibe for them, they would go with Flora, not so much using the name Gardner. Okay, anyways. back to Lord of the Rings. Frodo Gardner. Eleanor is their second child and also on the pawns list. Rose, Merry and Pippin, Goldilocks. That's fascinating because how does Goldilocks, the human world fairy tale, fit into Middle Earth? I don't know. I don't know if this list is even canon. Fun regardless though, because Kat also listed the name Goldie, and I said Goldie reminded me of Goldilocks. Okay, next, Rosie Cotton's next child is Hamfast. Hamfast, like pork on the run. Next is Daisy. That's the name that keeps naming around here. Next is Primrose. Oh, this is lovely. I just worry that we're not far enough away from the Hunger Games for this to be realistically used right now. Okay, other than that, total win. And then they had a baby named Bilbo. Pass. Ruby, really feeling that one. Robin and Tolman. These are really great. Now, a few other girls that are GGWD are Maria from West Side Story and Anastasia. Did you know that real life Anastasia had cousins named Alice and also Louise, which is very similar to Louisa, which is the name we have seen more times today than any other name thus far? The vibe also extends to the 7 brides of 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, which is one of my favorite musicals of all time. Yes, problematic storylines and all. Names that fit from there are Alice, listed, Liza, that's fun, Liza instead of Eliza, Sarah and Ruth. Okay, what else? Peter Pan, Wendy only. That nightgown fits the vibe. Okay, now this last one is a deep track for only the deepest of track listeners ever. Our final Garden Girls in White Dresses girl is from the 1994 live action version of The Jungle Book. Do you recognize her? She is Kitty, and she is perfect. The white dress, the curls, the delicate feminine jungle explorer. Look at these pictures. The more pictures I look at, the more it feels like she was the prototype for Alexis Bledel in Tuck Everlasting. Are you seeing what I'm seeing here? That is remarkably similar. I think more credit needs to be given to 1994 Jungle Book Kitty. Okay, now we've finally reached the name portion of this baby name prediction video. Now that I've drilled the aesthetic so far into your head that you're suddenly transformed into a spirited gal complaining about bloomers and sewing lessons and marriage yourself. We are now all garden girls in white dresses. I have taken off my white gloves. Again, I am going to choose to stick with just the first letters that the pawns gave clues about. Even though part of me tells me this is unwise, that's not relevant, they're probably open to all 26 letters. But I am only one person with so much time to spend on the internet things, so we're looking at names that start with R-I-S-P-L-V. Okay, I really challenge myself to think of this criteria building out from Edelweiss. Even if it's a much more mainstream name, many of the same qualities I identified with Edelweiss can still be true. It could be floral or nature adjacent. There could be an element making it sentimental or nostalgic. The vibes could feel calm and peaceful and tranquil. Maybe there's like a familial connection to make. Alps adjacent, maybe we will end up exploring more into the Nordic realm. I think a longer, formal, normal name with fun short nicknames really feels like a must. Even though I think her original list of RISPLV names probably had a lot of short names that didn't have a nickname. Does that make sense? Like, I'm sure on that list they're like, oh, we like Ivy, but we really want something longer with a nickname. I'm going to go off the beaten path because even though I do think Ivy would have been plausible, I'm trying to challenge myself. What might start with I that would be longer with a nickname. Does that make sense? Doesn't matter if it doesn't, whatever. I really love that idea of names where there will be and something else, like we talked about with Edelweiss. It's a flower and something else. It's a song. It's from a movie. It has more than one clear association. Okay. Let's start with the R name. That was one of the letters they listed more than once, which means more than one of their favorite names started with an R at some point, and I still fully stand by Ruby. Ruby is the name with a U in it. How could it not be? Now, is Ruby a long name with nicknames? No, but yes. Ruby on its own is short and sweet, but it can still be nicknamed down to just Rue or just B. Ruby and its nicknames are all perfectly fitting in that space I've titled names that are and something else. Let's think about it. 1, Ruby, it's a gemstone. 2, it's not just a gemstone, it is a gemstone symbol for a birth month. It is for July. I don't know if July has any special significance for the family, but if it does, even more reason to choose this name. 3, Ruby has a strong color connection. Like even whether or not you're thinking of the gem, you're thinking of the color. When I hear Edelweiss, I immediately think white, and when I think Ruby, we all immediately think red. There's even other really specific situations where you'll hear the word ruby, such as ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz. Rue, as a nickname, R-U-E, is the French word for street. Kat had mentioned they liked the name Eloise in part because it matched their family and something along the lines of liking the travel aesthetic of it. I think Rue, being a foreign word for a place on which you travel, a street, is very fitting. And B, Ruby with the nickname B is first adorable. And again, it's a name and it's something else. It is like a bumblebee, which is the most garden adjacent, flower adjacent creature in existence. Oh, there's also butterflies. No, I think B wins. So all of these things about Ruby make it that really good sweet spot of being naturey, but not too naturey. It doesn't feel odd paired with pond. Ruby Pond. Are you kidding? I love that. One other name that starts with R that I'm feeling really good about. It's technically 2 names, okay? We start at Rose, like Rose from the Titanic, or Rosie Cotton, and then we need to give it a little extra oomph. I could see Rosalie or Rosemary. These are both longer full names with still the same nickname potential of Rosie or Rose. I think about Titanic again with IMDb's Quartermaster Row, Rosie to Rose to Row. Oh my goodness, I love all of these. Now the appeal of Rosalie will always depend on how much of a twihard the parent is. That is something only between you and God and Stephanie Meyer. So let's spend another second on Rosemary instead, because it's really hitting that and something else spot. Rosemary is flower adjacent, but rosemary itself is not a flower, it's an herb. Now, I'm not really one to read into the symbolism of names or flowers or that sort of thing, because ultimately I think it's really subjective. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no official answer of like, what does the name Elizabeth? No, okay, I take that back. My curiosity comes from looking at just the very top Google result, because that's what the pawns have likely also looked at and maybe connected with. They had looked up the meaning or symbolism of Edelweiss and shared that it was significant to them. So let's see what happens if they did that with rosemary. So for my Google search, the very first thing that pops up says rosemary as a symbol of friendship, loyalty, and remembrance. Rosemary is traditionally carried by mourners to funerals. And it then goes in talking about it being a symbol of love and fidelity. It's used at weddings, etc., etc. But don't you feel like just that opening remark about it being a symbol of remembrance could be special to them? The Pawns are not looking to choose a name that has a very clear connection between sisters, no letter E, that sort of thing, which is why this name of rosemary, that is technically an herb, not a flower, but still flowery, with a meaning of friendship and remembrance, feels really lovely. That is the kind of special, subtle connection that I think these parents could really, really identify with. Now, let's move on to the letter I. Okay, I feel pretty confident the name they had written down would have been Ivy or Isla or Iris, especially Iris. Iris is a purple flower and the baby name definition is rainbow. That really fits for them, but I don't think any of these fully meet that nickname criteria. I would say Ingrid feels the most Alps adjacent, but nickname situation, again, that feels even more challenging. Okay, so this feels a little bit out of left field, but I'm really wanting to stick to the parameters of this brainstorm. So I'm gonna say Ivory, not Ivy, but Ivory. Ivory can use the nickname Ivy, therefore it has a clear association to ivory being white, and ivy is like all about the fresh green. Ivory and ivy as colors and concepts feel so very Garden Girls in white dresses. Liesel in her ivory gazebo with green ivy creeping up the rainy panels of the glass windows? Yes. Ivory and Edelweiss, first, the soundscapes of those letters are beautiful together. Ivory and Edelweiss. Oh, I love that. Ivory and Edelweiss both have a very clear association with the color white. So do I think ivory fits the criteria? Oh, absolutely yes. Do I actually think they're choosing this? Probably not. Now for the letter S, there are so many possibilities. I think Stella and Scarlett definitely floated around on their brainstorm list. I really see Sylvia as a great possibility, especially with the nickname Sylvie, which can also be a full name on its own. The name Sylvia or Sylvie means from the forest, which is very mystical and enchanting and appealing to pretty much anyone who likes nature. The meaning and the sound of this name, to me, Sylvia, is so calm and peaceful and tranquil. Now, I'm still not 100% sure why I included Dirty Dancing on my Garden Girls in White Dresses aesthetic list, but Sylvia is a name in that movie, technically, you guys. You know that absolutely iconic scene of the movie where it's like the sexy, playful dance practice that was ad-libbed? The song playing is strong, Love is Strange. And it starts out by like singing, like, Sylvia, yes, Mickey, remember? And then, baby, you know what I'm talking about? Sylvia. It's there. It's in the, it's like the opening line to that song of that fantastic, sexy scene. That's fun. That is an extremely far-flung connection to be making in this video, but it's special to me and only me. And thank you so much for being here and experiencing that. Sylvia. Oh, I love that movie. So the letter S is another one that they did list more than once, and I do have a second S name that I feel so freaking good about. I do not think this was on their list. I don't think this is one they've thought of maybe, but I am here talking about it because I think it should be on their list. I want them to use it, okay? This name is Susanna. Did that surprise you? Did you think I would say that? Susanna. Pause and give it a second. Pause and take 5. If you don't love it, let me explain. First, be grateful it's not Pollyanna. Second, In my line of work, there is one specific thing that everyone, every single parent is looking for. This is proprietary information, but I'm sharing it with you here today as a little treat for making it this far in the video. 99% of my clients say this phrase: looking for something unique but not too out there. Everyone wants a name that's unique but not too out there. Everyone wants a name that is normal but not common. Everyone is looking for this. However, the answer is different for everyone because everyone has a different definition of what's normal, what's too out there, what's too popular. But really, that's what we are all looking for. Susanna is so normal, but not common. The year that Susanna was at its most popular, as I'm looking at the Social Security Administration.gov website, my favorite place on the web, the year Susanna was most popular was in 1904. And that's like peak Garden Girls in White Dresses era. No, actually, yeah, looking at it, a lot of the movies and media I've listed are like 1880s-ish, but 1904 is nearly Titanic. In 1904, Anastasia was 3 years old. Pollyanna takes place in 1910. Oh, and 1904 is the year that Disney's Peter Pan is set in. And I really feel like Tuck Everlasting's outfit for Alexis Bledel is suited for 1904. But hang on. This is confusing because like there's the element of that plot being like timelessness. You know, what year does that take place? Okay, so the Tuck Everlasting novel is set in the 1800s, but the movie is set in 1914. That is validation. Winnie and her dress, absolutely. Garden Girl, 1914. Susanna as a name was most popular in 1904. Yes, Susanna is a Garden Girl in white dress aesthetic name. I feel very confident declaring that based on the data I've learned. Now you might want to know how popular is it now? And I will tell you, its current ranking on the US Top 1000 popularity list. Are you ready? It's not. It's not there. It's not a top 1,000 name at all. According to the data alone, that makes Susanna more unique and obscure than the name Ocean or Clover or Lakeland. Those are all on the top 1,000 list for girls. Like when I do command search and type in SUS, trying to find Susanna on this list, only one name with the letters SUS is even on this list at all. It's a boy's name. It's Jesus. Now, so I'm loving Susanna for its obscurity yet normalcy, its GGWD vibes, and also nicknames, and something else quality to it. Let's get into this even more. Okay, nicknames. Oh my goodness, Susie? Are you kidding me? I understand that for some people, Susanna might feel too old in like an old and stuffy way, but Susie, this is so sweet. It's like fun and cheerful. It's completely obscure and normal. Or Susanna could use the nickname Zuzu, which is the sweet little daughter of George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. They never confirm like where her name came from for that movie. There's theories. But when you hear them together, Zuzu, Susanna, I think you can make that connection. Go for it. And if thinking about It's a Wonderful Life isn't tugging at your heartstrings a little bit, you need a little early Christmas in your life. You got to go give it a watch right now. So when we're talking about that and something else quality to Susanna, if you're using the nickname Zuzu, there you go. Edelweiss, clearly Sound of Music. Zuzu, for many people, feels like it comes from It's a Wonderful Life. Both of those movies are extremely beloved classics spanning generations in a way that a lot of old movies don't. Now, switching back to Susie, because I really love the idea of Susie. Susie Q is a famous song. There are so many versions and re-recordings of it that I'm confused where to actually give credit. There's versions that are straight out of the 50s. They're really like poodle girl aesthetic. I really like listening to them. And then there's versions from the 70s. And I listened to one a little bit earlier. And I just feel like Nick and Kat would drive through the mountains of Utah totally vibing with this. Just they turn it on in their car and roll down their windows and look at the aspen trees in October listening to Susie Q. I see that happening. I really do. Now, okay, and how fun would this be if both girls had song names in the most subtle way that would connect? Edelweiss and Susanna, Edie and Susie. On the surface, they don't have anything really in common, and I think that's good. That's what we want. That's what the pawns want. And then, oh, hang on, they both have songs. Susie Q, or I mean, honestly, there's also the song Oh Susanna. A little bit more bland in my opinion, but it's cool. You got both Susie Q and Oh Susanna. I just had this thought. We talked about Lucy on their list, feeling literary, via Narnia. And what is Lucy's sister's name? Susan. Connect. Bam. Brainwaves. Intersect. Okay, and then, do you know the meaning of the name Susanna? I just went on a little silly moment of saying name definitions are made up. They don't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if Emily means beloved Earth princess. Like, someone just came up with that. Okay, sometimes that's not true, and that's the case with Susanna. It originates in the Bible, okay, and it means lily, the flower. Edelweiss is a flower, and Susanna means lily, which is also a flower. And I cannot emphasize enough how so rare it is that a regular, normal-sounding name has such a clear, specific, one-word answer when you look up the meaning. Like I said, I don't put a lot of faith in those baby name dictionaries, but when every single source says Susanna, Lily, they don't say anything else. I trust that. So thank you, Bible. You really squared that one away for us. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad it's lily over any other flower, because hasn't that been my go-to example? You can't name her Lily Pond. Say no to Lily Pad Pond. So the idea of Susanna Pond, Susie Pond, Zuzu Pond, where nestled inside that name is Lily Pond, I love it so much. Every part of my existence wants them to choose Susanna Pond. And I don't have a preference on whether or not there's an H on the end. By the way, were you wondering? I think they're both nice. The H makes it look just a little bit more biblical. That's the only difference. Oh, Susanna. Oh, Susanna. Okay, now for the letter P, I've got a bunch of fairly plausible ideas just coming straight from that movie and book list brainstorm we did. I don't really have anything more to add about them, so I'm just going to list them. Penelope with the nickname Penny or Poppy. Phoebe, Philippa with the nickname Pippa. Okay, I don't have anything else to say about them. I'm just really like coming down from that high of Susanna right now. The next letter is L, and there are always so many lovely girl names that start with L. If I had to choose one letter to symbolize all GGWD names, it would be L. It's lovely, it's lace, it's la 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 la, it's so girly. I think the name on their list that they blurred out was probably Lydia. Suits the vibe to a T. What else is there to say? I think Lainey also works. I can't not say Louisa after we've talked about it so many times here. I think Lilibet would be fun. Lilibet, like a Meghan Markle used. Lilibet would be fun because it's kind of doing a rose to rosemary thing. Lilibet starts with Lily, but imagine going with Lilibet and using the nickname Betty. That's really cute. Lilibet Pond with the nickname Betty. I'm a fan. I highly doubt this is a name they're considering, but I would like them to. Now, there's one other L name that I think is most deserving of my time here, and that is the name Linnea, which can be spelled and pronounced different ways. I've looked it up and really, so it's a Swedish name. And even when you look up videos of Swedish people pronouncing this name, there's not even one clear answer for all Swedish speakers. So I've heard Linnea, or an American will typically say Linnea. I am going with Linnea because I like how it feels similar to Lydia in this context, okay? Lydia, which we've talked about, Lydia to Linnea. It just softens it a bit more. And have I not been saying this whole time, the Ponds are just so soft, gentle folk. Or think Zinnia to Linnea, Zinnia the flower, Zinnia to Linnea. So regardless, I think any way you want to pronounce it, the sound feels calm and peaceful and tranquil. This name, like I just said, it's Swedish. That's Alps adjacent. Because you just hop over to Sweden. There's still mountains there, right? But that's not Nordic. Is Sweden considered Scandinavian? If not, what do I use? What overarching word can I use? Well, I guess I should use Swedish for now. Swedish. So this name originates in Sweden as the name of a flower. So yeah, Zinnia to Linnea, but also Linnea is its own type of flower. It is a tiny pink flower, sometimes called the twin flower, because it's the stem is like the shape of a Y, and there's a little bud coming off each end of it. It's so tiny. Here's a picture of it. So charming and tiny and cute. It's like this tall, I think. Now, I love this image in regards to a pair of sisters. I love this because we're talking about a pair of sisters where therefore each sister would have a very obscure flower name. Edelweiss and Linnea. Edie and Linny. Oh, that is very cute. This is the exact type of sort of sweet, subtle connection that the Pons family could make between the sisters. It's a connection that the average person would not ever realize. It doesn't feel like she's living in her sister's shadow. There's just this twin flower connection. Edie, Linny. Oh, I really like that. The Linnea flower. Yeah, very charming, lovely name. Have they heard of it? I don't know, probably not, but I think they should. Okay, final letter. Here we go. It's V. And the name most likely on their list would be Violet. Did they say Violet? I don't think they've mentioned it, right? It feels so natural that there's no chance that's not the name on their list. Violet. I mean, they loved Daisy. Daisy to Violet. That's a very natural step. With the vibes, I'd also say Vivian is nice. Now, for a name that has the most and something else factor to it, though, my favorite name for them to consider is Virginia. Virginia. Does Tuck Everlasting take place in like a real place that exists in the real world? I mean, if it does, it has to be Virginia, right? That's very, very Virginia vibes. The garden girls in white dresses aesthetic definitely lends itself to the South. I would say the femininity, the flounce, the tenacity and grit alongside that femininity, that's very Southern. Now, I love the nickname Ginny here. We're just trying to loosen the grip that Harry Potter has on that name. I think we're like halfway there. You know, Hermione is probably always, always, always going to have that Harry Potter connection because truly there is nothing else for the average person to connect that name to. But Ginny has existed as a nickname for Virginia longer than the Harry Potter series has existed, you know? I mean, Hermione wasn't like, J.K. Rowling didn't create it out of thin air. Regardless, you know what I'm trying to say. Ginny, nickname for Virginia. I think this name is slowly returning to the general public. It's not just for Harry Potter fans. They can't keep it forever. Virginia, you can't keep that forever. I mean, look, we're going Romeo and Juliet to Virginia is for lovers. That is great. I love the idea of Virginia as a name because it's also a state and a name, and Virginia's for lovers and Southern vibes. It has so much in the same way Edelweiss has so much when it comes to different vibes. That one's really nice. Now, throughout this whole thing, how many times have we talked about Tuck Everlasting? Like 1,000? I need to officially add the name Winnie to my list, even though it's breaking my rule about the first letter. Brainstorm, blah, 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 blah. The question is, what full name, though? What full name do you predict that they would consider for Winnie? This is a situation of perhaps knowing you love the nickname first, and then you got to figure out the full name second. That happens sometimes. You can do that, sure. So Winnie in Tuck Everlasting is Winifred. Other names are Winter. Winter, the thing that I don't think they would pick that. I don't think that's their vibe as much, but it is a nice thought because Edelweiss, the song, is about like how the white flowers look like snow. If I'm remembering the lyrics, I believe that is a theme. Winter, less likely maybe. Winslet, Kate, Titanic. Yes, Winslet, that's a really nice name, more obscure. I think Winslow would be ever so slightly more likely than Winslet. Winslow, I really enjoy because you've got Winnie and you have the nickname Low. Like, what was his name? Quartermaster? IMDb, what did it tell me? Quartermaster Low? Yeah, it's giving us all of those good Titanic vibes right there. So what else did I want to throw in before I closed up shop here? Oh, I wanted to add in Flora for that theme of like, if you know my dream career. I feel like every girl at some point has had florist on the top of their dream career list. So yeah, we got to say Flora. Now we've got one more final Hail Mary of an idea. The name is not Mary. A name that has been on my mind a lot the last few weeks. I know it's not likely the one, but I gotta discuss it. That's the whole point of this. The name is Cosette. Cosette, yes. Yeah, you know the association. You know Cosette. Cosette is a main character from Les Mis, and I have been listening to the soundtrack a lot lately. I am training to run a 10K. It's on my bucket list to run a 10K. And after I've done that, the bucket list doesn't continue on from that as far as there's no half marathon. There is no marathon because any amount of running you could do where it's unsurprising to have your toenails fall off is too much running. That is the human body's way of saying, not meant to do that. So I really want to run a 10K though. I'm getting blisters a little bit. You know I'm getting blisters? Because I have big boobs and I dislike them very strongly. I'm getting blisters. Last summer, I was getting blisters on my rib cage, like right where the band of the sports bra sits. And if you're saying, oh, it's because it's too small, that's between me and God and Stephanie Meyer and my sports bra. Because here's the thing, when you have big boobs, it has to be so freaking tight. I put on multiple layers of compression onto my, I go underwire, high intensity, layered with high compression. I've got it all. And they still bounce. And it drives me insane. I just, I would like to remove them. That's the bottom line. Anyways, this summer, I'm not getting blisters on my rib cage. I'm getting them on my back. My back, like where the like where the bra hooks together. Yeah, you can't, if your boobs are big, you can't just like pull it over your head. You have, it hooks in the back with like 4 sets of hooks. I'm getting a blister, like my skin is being rubbed raw there. Do you know how terrible it is to be a woman? I have blisters on my back from running at a speed that is barely faster than walking. Okay? Now, something I've done to make running enjoyable, which I actually, it's weird. As an adult, I find running enjoyable. Who would have thought? Something I love is challenging myself to listen to one album all the way through, because I end up running for like an hour. And instead of doing like pump up, remix, Hot 100 playlists every time, I like to listen to one album all the way through. So then you get like a fuller experience rather than just like, you can't have an adrenaline hit for a whole hour. It's better to just pace yourself and enjoy some tunes. So Les Mis is really good because as long as you're familiar with the musical in some capacity, you listen to the soundtrack and you're seeing it all in your head because there is no talking in that. It's just the music. So you pop it in your ears, you're right there on your run in Les Mis. I love that. So I was listening to Les Mis on a morning run and pulled my phone out of my little pouch to write this down for this baby name brainstorm. I wrote down Cosette during the middle of my run. Beautiful morning. I was like, I cannot forget this. It feels so right. Let's talk about it. So Cosette, as a character, she's so lovely. She has some characteristics similar to Liesel or Juliet. She's this very idyllic, feminine beauty. There's a whirlwind romance. Liesel has her gazebo. Juliet had her balcony. Cosette has a gate. She like lives in like the gated home. Don't her and Marius like sing on opposite sides of it? Something like that. I love that in the scope of Les Mis, we see Cosette as both a little girl and grown-up girl. Because as I'm talking about the not Golden Girls, the Garden Girls in white dresses, there's been a mix of little girls like Alice in Wonderland, and there's been grown-up girls, and everything in between. So I like that we see her in both lights. She is for sure a garden girl in a white dress. Cosette, petticoats, 100%. Oh my goodness. It's the dark academia of Victor Hugo meets the light academia meets cottagecore. Oh, wow, that's really good. Victor Hugo. Always relevant. So, Cosette, curls, yes. Bows, I'm not sure, does she wear a bow? I don't know. Delicate and feminine, yet clever and bookish. Yes, 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 yes. Her character is all about familial love and familial loss, losing her mother and so on and so forth. Cosette is all about overcoming hardships, and she grows and she loves, and she's just so lovely. Cosette, when you're looking at nicknames, oh my goodness, Cozy, Coco, Co. It fits what they're looking for. The Pawns are looking for something with a formal, longer, normal name with fun nickname options. This has options. I love Cozy. Cosette to Cozy. That's very sweet. Now, maybe above everything else, the reason this name gets to me is drawing all the way back to what I said in the very beginning about the Pawns being former Mormons. Because, to say it simply, I feel God in this Victor Hugo tonight. There is spirituality around Les Mis that is broader than any one specific organized religion. It is spiritual. Les Mis itself, the play, is a non-denominational church, which, yes, all of this is confusing because the plot does also literally involve like God and church forgiveness, redemption theme. There's a religious tone to the play, but I'm not talking about like that. I'm talking about the whole thing is a church. Les Mis is a church. Does that make sense? I had the incredible opportunity to see Les Mis on Broadway when I was 16. My friend got tickets for her birthday and she brought me. And on our drive into the city, her mom put on the soundtrack in the car on the drive there because she said, look, this musical doesn't have any talking. It's just singing. So as we make the drive into the city, we're going to listen to it and I'm going to explain and kind of like narrate to you what's going on. And it was actually really helpful, super, super helpful. So 2.5 hours later, we were sitting in our seats. We had listened to most of the music on our way there. The curtains came up and it opened with the singing, the men in the shipyard. And even though I can't fully remember if shipyard is the right term, I will never forget that moment. I will never forget how hearing those men singing made me feel, because I was just in complete awe that this wasn't the CD recording we just heard. Their voices, these are men singing right here in this room, live. How is it so perfect? This can't be real. How can it feel so perfectly identical to a CD recording? How could real life be as good as a recording? I was blown away, and it was that amazing till the very end. It's an amazing musical. For what it's worth, in the stage production, I love Eponine the most, but in the movie version, I like Cosette the most. I do. I am a Cosette fan when it's Amanda Seyfried. But either way, getting to the end of that production when I was 16 years old in that Broadway theater, I was crying. Just Cosette is parting with her father figure as Eponine and Fantine appear. You know, there's like the take my hand, and then there's the line, to love another person is to see the face of God. And it's like that's religion. Every other rule a church has made is just like an asterisk after that. I hadn't noticed this line in the musical before, but I'm noticing it now because I'm thinking about this baby named Brainstorm. I'm thinking about this family, Kat and Nick Pond. I'm thinking about the recurring theme of flowers and gardens. And you guys are probably so sick of me saying these things, but at the end of Les Mis, as the chorus is singing their final time, like the grand finale, there's a line that says, even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. They will love again in freedom in the garden of the Lord. It's like, what else? That's so perfect. It's so nice. What else do I say? Hi, I'm back. It's a little bit of a random jump in here. It feels like that scene, the cutaway scene they do in Emperor's New Groove, where he like pulls up the... Anyways, I'm back. This is a different clip, different recording altogether. Had to throw it in because the Ponds gave some more baby name clues. In the time in between me recording that and right here, right now, they have given more clues, and I'm excited. I love a baby name clue more than anything in the world, but I'm really worried it's about to undo everything I've created. You know, tricky. I'm not going to redo anything. I'm not redoing all that work I did. I don't even know if this is going to undo anything, but let's just look at what they've shared. In an Instagram story series, Kat posted a poll of like this or that. They say they're 95% sure they've chosen their baby's name. So she's sharing some of the ones they love, but they're not going to use, which they've done before. We talked extensively about it. So we're going to see if it's the names that we've already been aware of, or if there's any new intel. Okay. I'm nervous. Now, here's the thing. If she says any names that I've put in my prediction here, I'll know that it was the right choice that I went with that, because it is the right vibe. And I'll also know they're ultimately not choosing it. So it's kind of like pros and cons. So here we go. It's this or that. First slide, Alice versus Liesel. Okay, we knew those. We knew both of those. Ooh, should I answer as I go? What do I think, Alice or Liesel? Alice. No. Sorry. Liesel. I don't know why Alice came out first. It's Liesel. It's definitely Liesel. Okay, slide 2. Dorothy or Lucy. Oh, I had not considered Dorothy, though tangentially we did talk about the Wizard of Oz via the ruby red slippers. And Lucy we did already know about. Okay, safe so far. Which one do I prefer here? I think Dorothy. I'm saying Dorothy. Okay, next. Betty or Joey. Oh my goodness. Betty I had included as a nickname for Lilibet. Joey had never crossed my radar ever in the slightest, ever. Joey, though, it's like Joe, which is very Little Women. Little Women is very GGWD. That's got to be a nickname for Josephine, but it could be Joanna. And Joanna, my goodness, not that far from Susanna. Okay, next. Oh, wait, I didn't say which one I like more. Sorry. Betty. Okay. Next. Phoebe or Lydia? No. I said both of those. I just spent like so much time convincing you why those were good ideas, and now we know they're not. Like, yay! I knew the vibe, but like, no, they're wrong. So like, I had those right, but they're not the name. Phoebe and Lydia. Wow, both. Okay, and which one do I like more? Lydia. Next. Rosie or Daisy. Rosie or Daisy. Okay, we knew about Daisy, but wow. Did we just spend so much talking about the name Rosie or Rose or Rosemary? That's so crazy. Now this, saying that, like, would you rather, which one do you like more, Rosie or Daisy? Technically, that's not ruling out Rosemary or Rosalie. It seems less likely now, but it's not like written in stone, you know? Okay, last one. Oh wait, I didn't say which one I like more. Rosie. Last one. Louisa or Juliet. Juliet we knew about. Louisa, I have been calling it like the name of all names. I've spent so much time talking about Louisa. They have also spent time talking about Louisa, and it is not the name. Wow. Which of those do I like more, Louisa or Juliet? Ooh, I like both of those a lot. I'll say Louisa, because we've really made a bond in this video. So, okay, we need to revise my final list here. I promise this is the very end of the video. Just crossing out the ones that have been now therefore eliminated from my brainstorm. We are left with our final list of names. My goodness, did you ever think we were going to get to the end of this video? I'll list them all one last time, but before I say that, real quick, thank you so much. Like, truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. I can't believe it. I can't believe you're here. Every day I feel like the luckiest person in the world to have this interest and be able to share it with people and have people come along for the ride. That will never not amaze me. So thank you so much. Here is that final list one last time. Ruby, that has my vote on most likely that they will choose it. Rosalie and Rosemary, Isla, Ivy, Iris, Ingrid, Ivory, Sylvia, Susanna. Susanna is the one I most want them to choose. Penelope and Philippa, both of those heavy on the nicknames. Penny, Pippa, Poppy, something. Lainey or Linnea, Violet, Vivian, Virginia. And then throwing in Winnie, any name where the nickname is Winnie, but Winifred, Winter, Winslet, or Winslow, Flora, and Cosette. There it is. We did it, you guys. We did it. Thank you for watching. Bye.